Welcome to Neon Lit. My name is Shannon Austin. I'm known as the Log Lady, at least for tonight. Here at Neon Lit, many stories are told. Some are sad, some are humorous, some are ordinary, and some take us to the far reaches of our imaginations. Still others straddle the line between poetry and prose. Yet all of these are surrounded by a sense of mystery. The mystery of life, the mystery of death, the mystery of how long someone will read. Don't laugh at that. To introduce this story, let me just say that it encompasses the all, that it goes beyond the page, though few would understand that meaning. It is a story about many, but begins with one, and I know her. The one leading the many is third-year poet Autumn Widdoes. Autumn is the one.
So I'm going to read some poems, and they all have ghosts in them. We're going to start somewhere really dark and end up hopefully with a little bit of hope. Aka Horror Show. Dream that night you paced the floors unable to sleep in the abandoned government-owned apartment, falling apart. A gaggle of ghosts walking with you. To this place, some distant acquaintance had relinquished us. Our survival weekend. From the distance of rooms, I see your eyes terror white in the darkness, the deers darting through the mountainous forests, a verdigris wind bringing in the ocean, clawing the walls with its warnings, bringing in earlier thoughts, a day as still as death, gray pallor casting its veil across the still emerald pools, an island's unreachable core, the blood-red mountains turning towards immortal sleep. From the peaks, I saw a body broken on the cliffs below, I thought, half submerged in the water, haunted by hunger, across a narrow pass only a bird or butterfly could survive. The ocean delivering its bounty from archaic battleships huddled at the horizon, readying for a long war already lost. How strange that within the day, the night already exists, and futures without you haunt the present. In the darkness, the rain brings the hunters to the hunted, as the legions come in with a howl. I, a pile of bones on the cold floor of the vacant apartment. You, a shadow perpetual in the forested mountains. A calico language. In the valley of death, the lunar mountains are nowhere near. The world here isn't ours for the taking. We are here regardless, as travelers on half-drawn wagons, built from silver and bone, to pass through this bloodthirsty land, the same way the dead await their turn to cross over Lethe. You and I, beloved, can't see the past or the future. This should be freedom, but we barely admire the loveliness of trees, the ancient shoreline cut into the rusted desert's crags, the nocturnal animals that live in fear of our ghostly presence, beamed out from the deepest night. There was never a map, so we followed blindly, a dream-filled fire, leaving our old world skin with the heavy wool and mottled language that held what life we had known. Entering this spectacle land, we died from the thick heat, coming off the bayous of the Mississippi, les élébons tempoules, all the way to a hell constructed of steel and titans, to build the motion of a rapid river, to meet the Mississippi head-on, to move it from east to west. On the tracks in the Appalachian foothills, you said you'd go your way, I'd go mine, until we met again in the promised land with mountains that speak calico. Ghost machine versus the world. Hateful life in a ghost machine. The green mountains hail a sapphire ocean, turning the flesh to copper wire. Sun's glint through the blueness dazzles. Blue screen of death becomes veil between. Fertile ground springs forth from molten core. Touchscreen spirits jealous of nature. Eternal snow petals float in the soft air. Youth withers in mechanized labyrinths. Valley opens its dusty arms to love. The crumbling soul pinned to a console. Infinite love in the fierce avalanche. Tiny imprinted skull chained to body. A chain of lakes, a chain of flowers. Its dead eyes do not cloud over. The clouds that devastate the small town. The flicker that mesmerizes the brain, bring forth from ruptured beauty newness, an artificial human construct, life immortal beginning and end. New oceans, new forests, new angels' wings, the gray skyscrapers empty without you. Flurries and stillness continue on, skyburst in a distant galaxy. This is my last one. Okay, 2011. The year I gave up on poetry, I moved to an isolated island. My mummified body encased itself in concrete. My mind slowed to 1 mile per hour. It detached itself to live at the end of a barnacle-encrusted pier near my home. It went fishing and swimming and didn't invite me. It associated with crude individuals of desperate means without listening to my objections. It whored itself to men who wore tinfoil on their heads and met in dingy parks to play shogi before returning home to their saggy wives. It left home to join the ranks of other minds wandering the streets, panhandling for language. The year I gave up on poetry, I could no longer imagine an infinite world. All I saw were the peripheries of a small block of sad land, its farmers going years without crops. The rising of the ocean encroaching upon the houses, a sea whose waves lifted into the heavens and selfishly never returned anything, destroying the memories of dreams forming in the minds of the dead. Nothing else seemed possible after that. The land's isolation had become its own comfort. The year I gave up on poetry, I said to this island that I was not here as I imagined I was. I had stopped existing years before. I was but one of its ghosts at the edge of existence. Words could no longer form in my mouth. Thoughts of words no longer existed. A chair was no longer a chair. It signified mass, nothing more. It signified even less than nothing more. Nothingness had annihilated itself. The year I gave up on poetry, I won the prize for a reconstruction of a deconstruction that had been fragmented and destroyed years before I was born. I pored over coffee and forcefully stitched together languages, their syntax not meant for each other. Forced into marriage, these words raged in despair. They built labyrinths in which they hid away parts of themselves forever. They revolted in passive-aggressive ways, leaving me always on edge, always in fear of the next sentence. The year I gave up on poetry, I adopted 3 alphabets and shipped them off to boarding school. I knew it was only a matter of time before they would return to the island, ambivalent towards its small-town ways. When they finally did, their endless web of inner worlds spilled over the edges of the island, creating pathways that could not exist. People started to complain. They smoked. They stayed out too late. They were loud and spoke in an affected manner alien to the island. They drank awamori with the snack girls. They hung around the pier where my mind had become a barnacle. The year I gave up on poetry, I started teaching my native tongue. I pulled it from my mouth and put it in a display in a glass case, which I carried with me to each classroom. It became an exotic animal, wild emotions teeming under its drooping skeleton. Its bones turned to electrified jam. It slithered pitifully around while all the school children watched, waiting for it to clown a song and dance. It eventually It eventually disintegrated into the case itself, tiger into jellyfish, jellyfish into amoeba, amoeba into dust, dust into sunlight. The year I gave up on poetry, I began to slowly rediscover a forgotten language. Sounds from a parallel world in which the peaks of mountains meet the sea in an inverted salute, in which the mountains are stars and the animals move with wings for fins, with mirrors for wings, with universes reflected in mirrors. An interstitial place. The isolated island curling up at the seams, its borders revealing infinity, revealing this other world constructed from a language that is ever expanding, rebuilding itself nightly, and leaving nothing in stasis. Thank you very much.